Hello, Angie. Um, Angie, this is your Uncle Joe. I know you know who I am. But you haven't seen me in a while, and I love you. My gosh, um, yeah, actually, all has slipped my mind. Everybody, because I mean, I've been away from you guys so long. It's because and when you heard about me, like it's like another heartbeat came back. I haven't had in years. And thoughts. Um, Angie, there's a thing. You're bright enough to understand this. In June, on June the 9th, um, this goes for Cece too, but Angie, when on June the 9th, uh, 2019, when God started talking to me, that's the first time I heard his voice, but God's been talking to me pretty much all my life, because I was autistic. You know, on my story, you'll hear it throughout my. It's on YouTube, okay, and it's going to be in my last book. Once I'm getting known, I'm not going to have any problem get all my books published in every language. Right now, a guy in California that lives in Folsom, right outside of Sacramento, where Folsom Prison's at. His name is Steve Lehman. He'll he'll publish every one of my books in English. I mean, in Arabic, Egyptian, any language, Chinese. It makes no difference. For $600 a piece. Of course, if I make this deal, when I told you I'm giving you everybody God's coin and one God's coin per month, every God's coin is dated for the day I give it to, exactly that day. It's actually your God's coin. It's just like the one I pay your wages back slowly, once a month. I give you back 1 to 5 God's coins per month, and it's actually yours. So I'm actually taking a duplicate and I'm investing it. One of the first things I'm going to be doing is buying 16 A380s, Airbus. The big Airbuses. They're the safest aircraft that's ever flown, the commercial aircraft that's ever flown. And I'll get the same amount of 16 747s built, and they'll all be God's Air on it, with the symbol of God's coin on it as well. God's coin and God. They will be the most expensive tickets in the world, but my airliners, the insides, instead of holding 750 passengers, they'll hold 500, maybe a little bit more. But the point of the matter is, there'll be luxury aircraft, and the staff will be best. It'll be triple the size of what any other aircraft would have. It's like everybody being waited on hand and foot. It'll be a memorable flight for everybody. My planes will, and God's Air. ASAP tickets, where I'm known, everybody that's with ASAP tickets has basically bought into God before I have. That's where Selena has been for the last 6 years, more than that. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's probably 6 years, and it was a company that was come out of apartments, working out of their homes, and now they got over 2,000 people working for them, 2,500 exactly, I think, and then they also have an extension in the Philippines starting. That's where Warwick just went. Warwick's got a BA degree in marketing. Now, until God took over, when God took over, that We thought we were going to have to do it, word to mouth, billboard to billboard, and that's why books got published. No, God's not playing that game. He says, now let me show you how it's done. God's given us blessing. And because of the condition of Selena's mother and her father and myself, I'm 73 years old. And I told you about the deal, Angie. I'll end up being a 30-year-old man and marrying Selena that's 29. It's so cute. She's so cute, adorable, naive. She's just like, she's 29 years old, has 8 years of college. She's up there in the IQ beside you, Angela. And I remember when you got your IQ test and it said that, possibly it was a zero common sense. You said, what's that mean? And Tony said, it means you can build a nuclear bomb, but you blow yourself up doing making it. So, anyway, that's she's up there. Okay, BQ. To stay in college 9 years, and I asked her if she could teach me the math. I need to learn the math that Einstein used. I need to know the math of Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. I need to know how that wording goes and how that writing goes. God's put a lot of that in my head, and I need to know how it works. The numbers like 1/37, the number 73 or 37. These numbers are very important to astrophysicists, people that believe in I just called it, but you know what I'm talking about. The people that are so smart that use these numbers. He's given me numbers, and so I have to understand what they mean. I want to use them, like he told me, like in E equals MC squared, or MC to the second. That is like not a true. That's not as true at all. God says He's changed this world's timing and the distance between the sun and us, and the speed of light has changed. Different times over the years, He can do that. It's in the story of Moses, when they had an ice age, that they were in the water for less than a year, but in that ice age only lasted 3 months. There was never ice in the Antarctica. There was never an ice age there. That was thick, lustrous jungle with dinosaurs, with pterodactyls, with everything. They didn't have woolly mammoths, because the woolly mammoths were gone in the north. That's the wool. But they had huge elephants with huge tusks, dinosaurs, Tyrannosaurus. I guess they had everything. Those are the giants that they were speaking of. That they weren't talking about physical giants like men. They were talking about the giants in those days. Now the people that were giants, that were over 8 feet tall, those were they were the Nephilim that survived Noah's Ark. There was not, and they were also the indigenous people. The Aztecs were giants. They were over 8 feet tall, and they played that game with the ball in the courts and stuff like that. These cultures, a lot of them are buried in Colorado. I mean, they come from Colorado. They're well known in Colorado, and these Aztecs. They come there. I was going to go to one of the places I was supposed to be in was up there when I was in Wyoming, or Wyoming, and going to the Yellowstone National Park, close to there for the Indian reservation, the Sioux Indian reservation, and I was supposed to meet one of the 7 Sioux leaders of the Indian nations, in which I had to go there first, and then I had to go to South Dakota, then North Dakota, and Colorado was the last one. I had to go to Nebraska. The Santee Indians, like they have the Santee here in South Carolina, are very well known in South Carolina, and they're also very well known in Nebraska. Altogether, there's 7 tribes that I was going to see the leaders of, to give them God's coin. That was way back in 2022. I was going to give them God's coin and get God's books. I just thought about that. That's where God's coin first started talking out. We were going to give it to the Indians first. And they were, and also to, for a couple reasons. To teach them about, God. The God that lives in them, which they know that. They already know that. They just call him Wonka Tonka or Manitou, whatever. They just call it by different names. But their spirituality is very close to what's really going on. They really know what's going on. As do the Egyptians when they talk about the afterlife. When I go back to see Mom and Dad, when I go to see, I won't say Shirley, because she's not in our bloodline. But I'll see Mom and Dad, and I'll see Grandpa, and I'll see Grandma. I'll see everybody there, and meet, Uncle Johnny, and anybody that's died in our family. You will too. How old they'll be, I can't tell, and where it's going to be, I don't know. If we were in Egypt, a family in Egypt, we would be born back in Egypt, but we wouldn't be dealing with the humidity. We wouldn't be dealing with the heat. We wouldn't be dealing with any other problems. We wouldn't be eating, having to deal with eating, or anything that we deal with. We're a spiritual life. But we also don't know the surroundings. That goes back to my first book called The Torchmaster. That's why I'm telling you this. The book called The Torchmaster. You have to read that, Angie. My sister read the story before it was ever published of The Torchmaster. Mom read the story. And so what I'm saying, the Torchmaster basis is in a hidden city somewhere in Korea that nobody, they have no enemies. Everybody lives together, but it's more than that. So you'll find out by reading my books and understanding. You also, the world without God has no, I don't know, they're missing everything. The excitement, I don't know, the imagination, the thoughts. You have no shortage of imagination, Ansel. I know that, and I really love to. I'll put you back to work too, and I know you're always busy and everything, but I want a candle like you had the one on driftwood with the different colors on it. You know what I'm saying? The way you made it, I mean, it was just like gorgeous. And that stuff you used to sell, the furniture you sold, oh my gosh, that was the best furniture in the world. So anyway, I just want you to know I love you. I missed you, especially now. Like I said, you was out of sight and out of mind so long. Same with my sister and my brother. I understand Fred lives up there at the Puget Sands at the Olympia Book Bureau Factory, and you guys are going to see him. I want a case of that beer. Olympia beer, okay? Um, when you see Fred might, he might not want to see me. Um, I understand Fred. Fred will never have anything to do with God. He's got too many issues with God, and I had the same thing. I was in an argument with God when God started talking to me again, and just let me know He needed my help. When He said, "Please, Joe, I don't have no hands and feet. I don't have it, or a mouth. You don't blame me. I need your help." And that's when I became God's. When God came to me for help, that's when I gave God my hands and feet and a mouth. I'm sure if that was to happen to Fred might forgive God too. His hands have been tied. And it's not really God's fault. He didn't have his hands on the trigger or even the minds of these idiots fighting each other. I don't know. I want to find out more from Fred about what the lieutenant's name was and what really went on, because I don't know whether I can make the story out in my own mind, whether it was somebody very important like Lieutenant Calley or the deserter that was in Cambodia that Marlon Brando depicted in Apocalypse Now. I mean, my mind is really tossed on that issue. And the fact is that the only thing I know about that whole issue is, Fred, you went there and you told me you carried a law. I mean, that's an M16 with a law attached to it. I mean, you're not supposed to even have a 45. That was part of the thing for medics. And with all the atrocities you saw, Fred saw, it was like, oh my gosh, I know why he couldn't. He told me about the UC care packages that he found were something similar, like the kids got their or had their arms cut off before getting inoculations of penicillin. That was something that Fred hinted on. He also sent an 8mm tape. Cece saw it. We all saw it. Where his friends were riding a water buffalo. 3 of his buddies were on a water buffalo going through a rice paddy, and they were motored right there. So he didn't probably know that he sent in a film where they got motored and blown up, all of them right there. And he sent it to us, that little 8mm film, and it was like 1 second there, the next second gone. So, but I blame God. I asked first thing at 3 years old. I said, where you at? Why'd you let that happen? Why do we have a devil? These are the things that, God has been my best friend though all my life. I've worked. I was a crane operator 35 years. We worked alone. An iron worker. Working way up as high as 450 foot high is the highest I built, and I was up there almost to the top of that when I got in a fight, and I was running the rails, the iron, after a guy, and they say they don't know how I did it, because they were watching me fly literally across the beams, and across from the big beams to the 4-inch cross beams and things like that, and jumping after this guy. And they don't know how in the dickens I did that, but I was mad, and I never caught the guy, thank God. But they said it was an amazing sight. I've been through a lot of things like that, and I've been a fighter all my life. Just like Dad. I remember when Dad lost the neighbor on Curtis Street, next door on Curtis Street, hit his wife, was beating his wife. She yelled for help, and Dad ran out of our house into his house, grabbed him in his own home, dragged him out his own front door and threw him out in the yard. Then that guy got in his hot rod pickup truck, ran it down the street, turned around real fast, and tried to run Dad down in his own front yard. And Dad called the law, and they got the guy in handcuffs. I remember the time when Uncle Johnny had a 45 in his back, and everybody getting out of the car with clubs to beat him, and he pulled the 45 out to start shooting, and Uncle Johnny was taken by the police to go to jail. Anyway, these are things that, Cece knows stuff, but she was always inside what she hated. But Dad had a rule: no boys allowed in the house. When he made that rule, because Mom kept complaining about us boys are tearing up the house, or doing stuff to the house. He says, okay, that's easy. No boys allowed in the house. That put Cece inside with Mom. And Cece said, that's not fair. But that's his dad's rule. And I went on. Fred was never with me. I was jumping trains with Junior. We'd ride the train out to Tully Raid Stables, get paid $1 an hour to ride the horses. We'd go out to the fairgrounds, near the fairgrounds, the Tully Road Stables. I made money at the Brickyard with Fred and I both went. We took Pepsi-Cola things apart, and for the hounds we got a nickel a piece, or a pair, or maybe it's a piece, maybe we got a dime for every cart we take. So we picked up $1 or $2. We always had ways of making money. I stole golf balls with I can't remember but I was stealing golf balls with somebody, and it was with Junior. Anyway, we would go out to on the golf course, and when they were hitting the ball, we're the ones that would run out from the things in the cactus, steal the ball while in play, and go back into the prickly pear cactus bushes and the tunnels. And we'd also get the range balls out the lake, and then we sold the balls back to them on the weekends. When I was in 6th grade, I think it was Irving Velez. I get at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got the comic books and the Playboys at Dick's Supermarket. And when they just hit the ground, we would get pretty much all the Playboys out, and we would get a few comic books of each one. And Irving sold the comic books for 10 cents a piece, and the Playboys for $1 at school. And Irving Velez that lived on, I guess that's Minnesota, Willows on one side, Minnesota's the other. So he would be the one that's selling this stuff. I would be stealing them for him. I spent my time with the hobos in Guadalupe Creek and on the railroad track. I've had a very adventurous life, more adventurous than Fred. Fred was always ghost daggum scared of Dad, and I, on the other hand, would laugh at Dad. Dad is a character. I mean, who runs around when he gets hit, skips, hops, cussing himself? He says, "You dumb son of a bitch! You dumb son of a bitch!" He said, like, "You stupid son of a bitch!" That's what he says, and he's calling this himself as he's running and skipping, going around, taking laps around the house and things. When he cut his finger off, when he walked off the roof backwards, and I laughed. The last time I left, I had Dad had a flat nose shovel and I had a round nose shovel. And we were shoveling manure out the back of the yellow bed for Yellowbird, he called it, because it had a tweeting sound because of the belts whistling when you go to crank it up. And he called it Yellowbird. Anyway, Dad and I shovels full of manure crossed at the top, and it all flew on Dad's head and on his back. You know, Dad had a way; his eyes would instantly bloodshot. He would roll his tongue like that. He would roll his tongue out. I mean, he like a scary dude, and Dad was big. He made 6'2", over 12 and a half inch shoes that I tried to fill. And Dad was a scary, and Bird was actually scared the hell out of Dad. He didn't like being around Dad. Another case, I was by Dad every second, all the time. When I was probably 5 years old, could have been 3, 4, 5. I think it was 5. The Plymouth fell on Dad. They were on Curtis Street, and it was he had it up on stanchion, so he was trying out, and as he got the rock in the car, it fell off there onto him. He's trying to get like a whatever he was doing, and he it had no all four wheels were off, and the car fell on him, and he said, "Get the jack, get the goddamn jack," and he says, like, he's trying to show me how to do it and set it up. I mean, he had a 2004 $3,000 pound car on his chest, and then he said, "No, go get your mama, go get your mama." And I started to run there. No, come on. And he come back, would call me back, and then let's try again. We'll try again. And then he said, "No, forget it. Just go get your mom." And I would go there, and finally I just broke down and crying. And he says, "Okay." And somehow I think Mom came in. I ran to got Mom, and Mom come, and she jacked the car off of Dad. The point of the matter is I've been through a lot more than my brother as far as that. It's not Vietnam. We're not talking about Vietnam. But Fred got to know this, that I went to Vietnam to chase his ass. We had a big fight. He called me a effing hippie. And Margie. He called me effing hippie before he went to Vietnam. And he started that fight. And I tried to join right then. He wasn't going to finish that fight. He had already been through corpsman training. He was all big of himself. But I wanted to finish that fight. Fred knows I don't stop fighting. You start a fight with me. Not even Peter wanted to mess with me. I didn't stop. I get even. And that's what I tried to go to Vietnam, and they sent me to the Med. I didn't learn until after I was in the Navy for 3 years that the reason they're going to fly me off of I was on a nuclear cruiser going to into the Black Sea. We were the biggest. We had the biggest missiles, and we had the more. We were way bigger size. We were a guided missile heavy cruiser with our nuclear warheads out. And we were at GQ for 3 days, and we went between 1,000 Russian ships in the Black Sea, and under Admiral Warwick, Zumwalt had us doing zigzags. And after 3 days, we were told to come topside, take off our life vests and helmets, and get our asses up there. They don't do nothing else. They just get our asses up there to see. So we could see hundreds of Russian ships, and all of them were standing at parade's rest, on their ships as they passed by. And we were flipping them the bird and everything, and some of them were like smiling. I mean, most of them were smiling. They were, admiring us. But they had some awesome looking weapon ships. I'm talking about. Well, we go up against this shit, but we won. It's like, oh my god! But we went Zumwalt's way. And when they went to this new Admiral Kidd that cleaned up the Navy and turned them into the uniforms into Dickie uniforms and things like that, I got out on a program called Shape Up or Ship Out, and our ship was going to the Philadelphia shipyards to be taken apart anyway, and because of my record and thing, I had my choice to get out, shape up, or ship out. I said, goodbye. But then I also knew the captain very well, and I had a very and he said that I would make a good sailor, and he's gonna miss me, and he says he just wish I would stay, and I do miss the captain. And check this out, what do you call the vice, the one just underneath him, the vice captain, whatever you want to call him. He lived in the same house on Willigling Way. He actually didn't live in the same. He lived on the corner house on Creek Drive and Willigling Way, 2 houses away. And he asked me, he says, Jensen, where are you from? And I said, San Jose. And he says, San Jose? Where in San Jose? I said, in Willigling Way. He goes, where on Willigling Way? I said, and he goes, you know the house on Creek Drive? That was mine. He called him a pink house, and it was pink. The first day I was there, Cece will remember this, when they said, Dad said there was no swimming pool. And I would go behind, and I said, Dad, there's no swimming pool. And then he asked Cece and Fred, he says, look at the pool, it's a gorgeous pool. And it says, no, there's no pool there. And he asked Cece and Fred, he said, you can see it? Oh yeah, Dad, it's a beautiful pool. So I can't wait till we get in it, right? We dug that damn pool. We built that pool. It wasn't a fully in-ground pool. It was half in and half out. But it was still an 8-foot deep swimming pool. My God, that was a character, man. And Fred, he scared Fred to death. Fred did not like to be around Dad at all. He scared to death of Dad. And vice versa. I was like, I'm the one that would be laughing when Dad do something stupid like cut his finger off or walk off this thing backwards or let the car fall on him. I mean, he's a character. And he's always cussing himself and rolls his tongue wise and goes. And then when he catches himself, I'm right there. But Dad and I have so much time together at his desk and held me in his lap, let me up there. He says, come on, Joe, get up here. You got to help me with this. And we designed Mom's gazebo, her garden, our thoughts, her dreams. I mean, everything. He wanted my advice when he took apart the wash machine. He had me make sure I would be with him to watch to see how it's taken apart, so that the guy can make sure I get this to get back together right. When he worked on the car, it was the same way. Everything he did, I mean, he always be there to make sure he got it right when he put it back together. And I guess because of my nature of being autistic, I was it's a gift. Autism was a gift. Even though, I don't know if Cece knows this or Fred knows this, but I was never mainstreamed. I took a basic arithmetic, not even algebra. I had to go to summer school to take algebra, and I flunked twice. But the idea is I at least tried. But I never got to arithmetic and reading. arithmetic and reading, and agriculture and shop classes. You know, I wasn't a metal guy, but carpentry I loved. Go to work as a carpenter, and I liked agriculture. But I had big people to tend with too. I had Gordon Boswell, that was a 21-year-old in high school. Him and I got in the fight. When he got in the fight back there, I mean, I threw a center block at his head. It hit the top of his head, and he got up and knocked me out. It was the first time I ever got knocked out. The things that happened to me, and even Fred was there as a witness when Peter shot a BB gun at me on the flood of Alpha Field at the electric fence until I passed out and I was stuck on the electric fence. So they went running to the house to get Granddad to unplug the fence. And they couldn't touch me because they got electrocuted. But I was stuck on an electric fence backwards because Peter was shooting a BB gun at my legs and things, you know. But I ended up getting passed out on an electric fence. These are real things. I remember these things. Peter was a sadistic, mean-ass pervert. And I'm the one that stopped him, and I'm the reason why Peter was taken from us. Because he's a pervert. When he was messing with Bobby, I was mad, and I stopped him right then, and I also stopped him at the dinner table, because I went to the dinner table and I called him a pervert in front of Mom and Dad and Cece and Fred, and everybody heard me say, he's a damn faggot. He makes making Bobby do things, touch him and things, and take his thing out and put it hooked to a car battery. I mean a battery, you know. That's when Dad had the police come and they took Peter away. Peter was away for like 2 years into a reform school kind of situation or whatever. Bobby went to Cotenberg Avenue to their Aunt Tilda's. She was such a nice lady. And she lived, you know, about across the street from DeLong's. John DeLong and them. But the thing about it is, Cece, you'll remember that, but she wasn't out the house either. She didn't understand. And I'm the kind of guy that will climb to the tallest part of the street and challenge people to chase me up higher and higher, or to jump off a roof. I'll do that because Peter put me up to that. Peter would say, I bet you won't do this, I bet you won't do that. And I would outdo everything Peter said. He put me up to that stuff. Fred had his ideas, but he was never around. He wanted to always be with his buddies or be alone. But he wanted to be safe. He was in his own world of martyrism. I'm a good guy. I'm a great guy. I do everything. We do everything right by the book. I'm the one that be down in Guadalupe drinking wine with the drunk, you know, and talking, stealing golf balls, you know, whatever, and fighting. I got my I'm going to take this. Fred came to my rescue many times. I got let my mouth override me when I called out two guys that were bigger than me. I was supposed to meet them, but I did go to meet them. I was scared, but Fred was with me. Fred was with me, and they didn't last long. It was Fred. They saw Fred's size and older than I was. 2 years older than I was. They saw him. They were They were the same age I was, and taller, bigger. I was 6th grade. But Fred did come to my rescue 3 or 4 times. You know, fight with me. We've been in a few fights together. Sometimes it was a fight with Fred, and I would join in. You know, I don't know, remember the details on that, but he did have, and he was a good fighter. He was a good fighter. The last fight we had with Fred in Milpitas, I just lost my head, Fred. You're going to hear this. I about choked him, strangled him to death. I was bigger in the arms and bigger in things, and he couldn't hit me because of the way my hands were positioned around his neck, and I was crushing his larynx. And he knows that because, I mean, he knows I wasn't easing off. I drove my thumbs right through his larynx and fixed to crush him. He couldn't talk for the longest time. He knows all this. I'm sorry that ever happened. I love you, Fred. That's the last fight. The last fight I ever had with Fred. Well, not exactly. We had a fight. He was supposed to meet me and Gloria when we were at the farm. Gloria and I took Gloria to go see the farm. Little Johnny and Uncle Johnny was alive then. Fred said, you just go your way, I'll go mine. I don't want to see you again. That's what Fred said. I love you, Fred, but you know, I'm just glad I didn't crush your throat, kill you, because I was trying, and I even wrote you letters to meet me up there in Altamont, or there in the Castro Valley, in the roads in the Castro Valley, the hills there, to meet me and let's finish this fight. One of us is going to die. I wrote you two times telling you, let's get this thing done. You and I are going to, one of us is going to die. You want to kill me? I'm going to kill you, and you're going to have your chance to meet me up there in those hills. I forgot what they called it, Castro Valley. And we're going to get this thing done. Just you and I. And then Fred never, I went up there waiting for Fred to come. He never came. I said when I'd be there, and I drove up there waiting for Fred, ready to die. I don't think I was ready to kill my brother. I was ready to let him kill me. I think it would go that way. I don't know. But I I wanted this thing between me and Fred going. Fred will always be Juts or Jabuts. I can't remember which one it is. Whether he just called me Juts and I called him Jabuts, or he was Jabuts and I was Jabuts. But either way, Juts and Jabuts have always been my passwords. And that's why it's in every book I've read. Jabuts, Juts and Jabuts, Juetz, and Jaboots. But that doesn't mean that you guys don't mean something to me. Cece, you remember when I chased you up the tree and swung the knife at your feet? I chased you up the tree. And I had swung that knife to cut your feet. Yeah, crazy little guy. But you pissed me off many times. But I know I made you mad more than once too. You know, but that um, I don't know. I really, I don't want to get into anything with you, Cece, about anything. I've hurt you. Yeah, I know I've hurt you many times. Like, uh, I don't even want to say it was vice versa. I don't want to say that because that just starts an issue. Let's just say that Mom tried to do the same thing she did with Joey and Becky when they grabbed their arms and throw my kids on the couch when I was coming through the back door. And I said, "Hell no, Mom, you ain't gonna do that shit to me. My kids, as you done me. Grab me up by my hands, throw me on the couch, and dare me to move or say anything." Yeah, my mom, she was a mean, bitter woman sometimes. Smoked 3 cigarettes, 2 in the ashtray, and have one in her mouth. Her hair smelled like an ashtray. When she went to kiss me, it was a puff of smoke coming into me. I couldn't stand the smell of her. I couldn't stand her meanness. And Cece, you had a lot of that kind of stuff coming in you too. You know what I'm talking about, but you listen there to know Mom and Dad. When I used to sit there and build puzzles and listen to her talk about all the guys she used to dance with, be with, when she was cooking. Even though Mom and Dad are sister, stepsister, and brother, that doesn't give her the excuse. They tell me that how much a hot lips Houlihan she was, and all the guys she was dating could have had other than Dad. That's what she would do when she's cooking, and I was building puzzles. That's a hateful person to tell you that. And I didn't just call her a witch. I called her a bitch. And the day I got drunk and Dad they threw me in a pool at 9 years old, or whatever years was Dave Simon's house at their anniversary. I drank too much punch and they threw me in the pool, sobered me up, and Mom was changing my clothes. She was hitting me with everything she had, and she broke the broom handle on mine. And I said, "You can't hurt me, you bitch. You can't hurt me." And I was laughing when she was, and she wore her hands out on me. She wore the broomstick out on me, and I would still say, "Go ahead, you bitch. I can't feel nothing." So that's what. And Dad can't do nothing but laugh. I'm not the giant of a man Dad was. Dad's just the funniest, most hilarious guy in the world outside of God. Okay. God's got Dad, hands, feet, everything way more. But Dad's just up there as far as his wit and humor. He's a witty one. I mean, no boys allowed in the house. She says, "That's not fair." He's strictly a Viking. My dad was a Viking of Vikings. Crazy. But anyway, I've got to go. I love you guys. I don't need, when I start talking, I don't stop. I don't hesitate. And it's like, I guess and believe me when I'm going to tell you that everything that I said is from the heart, and God's also shared in that conversation. Okay, love you. I'm going to drop this and I'm going to put it on YouTube for you to see. Okay? Angelo, I'm going to make it public because nobody's reading my stuff anyway. You want me to take it off the air, I'll take it off. But I'm making it public because I really haven't said nothing really, really harmful to us. Nobody knows who we are. But I want to make sure that Cece can see it. I want to make sure you can see it. I'm putting on YouTube right now as soon as I get off. I'm going to make it for the world to see. And in reality, the world needs to see these. I don't hold back nothing. I didn't hold back nothing with Elon and with the people I mentioned, Satoshi. But God's changed all the rules now because everything went. God's not playing around. The same day that I mentioned that no banks can take and take in any more cash, any dollars or anything. They don't know what to do. They're gonna have to. So I'm going. We'll see how that turns out. Okay. Love y'all. Bye bye.